Alright, welcome back to a new TouchDesigner tutorial. And in this one we're going to look at how to visualize a MIDI keyboard. And yeah, what you just saw was me playing some keyboard, quite obviously. And I was using sound from Ableton. So you can do this without Ableton as well, any other DAW, you're probably some kind of musician if you're watching this. But you can also use, if you don't have a DAW, you can also use any kind of, like the audio oscillator of TouchDesigner. So that also works. Yeah, so what this is all based on, what we're doing here, we're, yeah, we have like all the keys of a MIDI keyboard, and we want to like just position them nicely in a row next to each other. And we want to like make them move upwards in a colorful way and moving a bit. And they're also supposed to be just shown as long as we press a key. So it's sort of like this game or something. I don't know. All right, and it's all based on the event chop. That's really what's doing the magic here. And then we're using some channels from that and using that for instancing. And at the end we're doing some feedback magic to make them move. So without feedback, this is actually just keys like this. Okay, so let's get started and do some cool stuff, opposed to like all the bullshit that's happening. Yeah, I'm going to just delete all of this. And before we get into the network, what you need to do is go to the dialogues and go to MIDI device mapper, or just press Alt-D. I've already like added my device. You can just create a new mapping and then add your device here, your MIDI keyboard. Yeah, and then what we're gonna do is insert a MIDI in here. So sorry for the keyboard thing here, that really isn't perfect yet. I purchased a Pro license, but it's not there, so I don't know. Hopefully it will arrive soon. Anyways, so we start with a MIDI in, and one thing that might seem a bit weird, but is that we need to like press all the keys once. This isn't mandatory, but it's definitely working better than that way. So that's just what I'm gonna do, like press all the keys on my keyboard. So technically we should have 61 channels now, because I have a 61 key MIDI keyboard. So if you have like a 49 or 81 or whatever other numbers there are, then you know you're gonna have that amount. So just check with your middle mouse click how many channels you have, and if this is like fits according to your MIDI keyboard. Let's also sort these channels and click pulse, so we just have them all nicely sorted in a row. And let's just color this green because we can, and let's add an event chop here. We don't need the callbacks, so we can just hide these, and we also don't need the ID, so we can delete this, and we also don't need the state. Let's make this a bit bigger so we can see it nicely, and color this like red because it's important. So let's add a select here, because I want to show you something. You don't need to do this actually. I just want to show you. So let's just add, just select the ID as R. Nope. Here. And just so we can see nicely what's going on, because before we advance here, I want to like explain to you what these event channels do, because it took me some time to understand that. So we have selected 5 channels now. The first one is the index. The index is sort of just the number of the key. So I was also confused between ID and index, because if you have an ID is just a it's just increasing per event. So every time I press a key for ID, it's gonna be a different. So let's just show. I'm just gonna show you. So every time I press, the ID is just increasing. So yeah, we can't really do much with that here. What we want is to have the index, because the index is sort of just saying, okay, this is key 38, and if I press it many times, it's still key 38. And if I press this one now, it's key whatever, I don't know, 24 or something. And yeah, each of the keys that we're putting in here has its own index. Okay, the on-off is very simple. It's just showing us, is the key pressed or not? So is the key pressed, it's 1. If it's not pressed, 0. Or like the sample, rather. The input is just showing us how strong we press the button or the key. So basically it's the velocity. So if I press this very lightly, it's almost 0. And if I press this very strongly, then it's going to be near 1. And time and our ADSR are closely linked to each other. ADSR, if you're familiar with like some kind of DAW or just, you know, synthesizers, then you know what ADSR is probably. And so it's just attack, decay, sustain, and release. And we have all the options for that here. So what I want to do is change a few things here. But before we do that, I want to just show you what's happening right now. If I press a key, we can see it's going up here, going to 1, staying at 0.5, and then going down back to 0. So this is because we have set the attack time to 2, and the sustain is currently at 0.5, the sustain time is at 1, and the release time is on 3. So what we want to do is change the, we don't actually need an attack for our case. We also don't, we can just leave this. We also don't need a decay time. We don't need a sustain time. We can set these both to 1. We can set the release time to like 0.5. We can set the release level to, we can leave that at 0. So now if I just press something, you can see it goes up immediately, like instantly, and just goes down rather fast. So if I go down for the release time even more, it's gonna like go down even faster. So you can actually just leave it this way. All right, and the time is really just the amount of like, it's basically the entire ADSR, all of these things added together. So if we have an attack of 1, a sustain of 1, and a release of 1, the time is going to be 3. So it's really just a total of the ADSR. All right, I hope you you understand that. It takes a bit to get used to that, but it's super powerful. So let's use a select here and copy and paste that, because what we want to do is use these channels now for instancing. So I'm going to add a null and call this instances, and I'm going to add a merge and just put these in there. Okay, before we advance here, let's set up our network a bit. So we're going to add a circle stop and add a transform to this and add a geo. Let's also add a camera. We don't need lights, we can just use a constant material here. Just drag that on there. And we can add a render top here and change the resolution to whatever you're happy with, and change the pixel format to 32-bit float, because we're going to use a feedback loop here, so we don't want to have 8-bit. Let's change the anti-alias to like 16 high. Let's add a null, call this BG, and let's add a RGB key here just to make the background black. And let's go to our transform, change the uniform scale to 2.1. Let's go to our cam, change the cam Z to 15. So we're just zooming out a bit. Let's turn the viewer off for all of these. And also for this one. And yeah, so that's it for now. So let's go to the geo, to the instance page, turn instancing on, and use the instances null for the default instance OP. And what we want to do is select different things here. So here we want to select everything but the input. Here we want to just select the input, and here we just want to select the index. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to use the index for positioning. So so we have values between 0 and 60 in my case. So we want to sort of remap that to -5 and 5. So we just have like all of the keys nicely aligned in a row. So we could do this with a math, but it works a lot better with a lookup job. So we just insert a lookup here and add a pattern underneath, like in the second input. And this pattern, we're gonna call that pos x for position x. Let's change the type to ramp. And let's change the, we don't need to add a math, we can just use this to rearrange this from 0 to 1 to -5 and 5. So we just have this one value going up, like this yeah, one channel going up from -5 to 5. No, it's not 5, 5. There we go. And we just want to like, we're just using a lookup to put all of these just in this, to just sort of override all of these with this. So what we need to do in here, because if I go to the geo and to the translate x, and if we select our pos x and play around with my keys, you can see, oh, this is not actually working. So this is not actually, they're not being positioned correctly. They're just at -5 right now. So on a lookup, we need to do two things. So first, let's set the cyclic range to no. Just don't question this, just do it. And we also need to like set our index range here, like the index 2, to our number of channels that we have. So the best way to do this, I found, or an easy way to do this, is just to add an info chop here, the middle mouse. And here you can see we have our num channels. So let's just go here and like select our lookup and drag the num channels onto here, say chop reference. And because here we're starting at 0, so we just need to like subtract 1. Yeah, so all right, cool, that is working. So now if I play a key, it's instantly correctly positioned. And if it's not the case, it might be because you haven't pressed all the keys in the beginning. So please do that. Okay, so we have our circles. This is basically it, and that's really cool. Really cool and simple. Or I guess, I'm not sure if it's simple. Whatever. So what's happening here with this one little circle? What's up with this guy? So it's there because when we press no key, the index is on default at 0. And so we're looking at our position -5 because we're just like kind of circling through this. So if it's 0, the looked up positioning is -5. So that's where it's at right now, -5. And we can't really get rid of that, but we can sort of hack our way around it, and we can just use our the on-off, so the active state. So if a button is like, or if a key is pressed or not, we can use that for the scale. So yeah, let's just go ahead and go to the scale on our geo and change this to on-off on both X and Y. So now, as long as I press a key, it's going to be shown, but if there is no key pressed, then there's also no circle there. So that works nicely. we can also go to our instance 2 page and go to the alpha channel and change this to input. And so the input, as I said, is the velocity, so the strength of how strong we press a key. So if I press this very low, you can see this is sort of grayish now, so it's a low alpha, and if I press this strongly, then it's going to be wide. But as we can also see, this never really goes up to 1. So I don't know if it's just my keyboard, but we can use a we can use an analyze to like just look, okay, what is our maximum. So we can change our function here to maximum and then press this really strongly, and that's actually not a good, whatever. The actual way to do this is use a trail here, and now we can see what our maximum is. So it's something around 0.8 or 0.9, and we can also do the same with minimum, which is going to be 0 here. So yeah, but just so you know, that's a really nice trick. Let's use the math here, and let's change the range to like point like 8.5 or something. So now if I press the key, it's really like strongly, it's really going to be wide. Okay, just so you're more in control of this, you can do this with other channels as well, of course, like remap them. So let's also look at using time here. So we can use time for the scale, for example. So if I now press a key longer, the scale is gonna grow, which is also a very nice effect. I really like that. Sounds very dramatic. Okay, anyways, so yeah, you can play around with these. You could use ADSR for this as well. So we're like, so if we add an attack here now and a longer release, so it's gonna like grow and shrink, and if we add some sustain, it's gonna grow, stay, and shrink. So this way you can play around with like animations. An important thing here, I noticed, for some reason this release time should not be 0, because otherwise if we add like, if I do this, it actually doesn't matter right now, but just generally it works. There's some glitching happening, or there was some glitching happening for me when release time wasn't set to 0, so somehow there needs to be not 0, just so you know. Okay, so let's add some color to this. So you might be wondering how you could achieve that, because might want to have like a different color for each, because I mean we could just set this to like blue, and then all of our circles are going to be blue. But if we want to have a different color for each instance, then we need to use a texture map. So let's use a texture array actually. So let's use a noise here, and you might think you could just like, that's what I thought. You could just put them all like next to each other, just make a resolution of 60 or something, and then use that. That doesn't really work. So let's use let's change the resolution here to 1. Let's go to transform and animate this in time. So ABS time.seconds. We can just leave it like this for now. Or actually, it's more elegant if we just type me.time.frame. Okay, let's just do it that way. Let's go here. Also change this to 32-bit float. Let's change the monochrome to off, so we have color. And what we can do now is go here to the texture 3D, and now you can see we have like all of our 32 different colors right now. So let's change 2 things here. Let's change 3 things actually. Change this to 2D texture array. That's what it needs to be. Let's change the prefill to on. And let's change the cache size to our number of keys, so we can can actually just go here and use the same expression. And then we need to reset this. So now we have like def is 61, so we have 61 colors, which is perfect because we have 61 keys. So now we can add a null here. Let's just call this call map and drag this on here. And now everything's gonna be the same color still, because what we need to do, we need to go to the geo instance 2 page, and on the W, let's change this to index, because what we have here is a sort of, like these are sort of stacked behind each other. So it's like one rectangle behind the other. So with the W, we can like select which one we want to take of these using the index, so the number of the current key. So if the key is 3, then we're gonna use, I'm not sure where this starts, I think here. So we're gonna use blue. Let's see if this works actually. Yeah, there's this color, and then it should be yellow. Yeah. No, like, yeah, there we go. So exactly that's how it works. So you might don't want, like, I don't like having it this colorful. I'm not such a colorful person. Let's yeah, I'm actually. So let's go here, and we can like decrease this, so we can like multiply it by like 0.1, for example, and you can see this is sort of like changing the period. So now we can press pulse, and we have a much smoother gradient. So we can like change this even to make this even smaller, like a even smoother gradient. We can now go change the seed, and yeah, that's gonna change the way this looks. So these are all ugly now, of course. Okay, whatever, let's just take that. Yeah, and now we have like yeah, a nicer gradient. We can also, like, this is sort of like changing the brightness and saturation and stuff. Just saturation actually. So if we want to have a higher saturation, we can increase the amplitude, and I can see we have stronger colors. Or again, change this. I don't know, man. Yeah, of course I'm not happy with the colors now. Goddamn. Okay, whatever. Let's add the feedback loop now. So because what we have currently is just these circles in the middle, the center. So that's not what we want, I guess. Let's go to the geo and change the position to like -3.2. So they're like down there now. And now what we can do, we can add a blur here. We can and yeah, and now we can add a feedback loop. So let's add a composite here. Change this to over, and let's add a feedback, a transform, a level, and that's it. So now we can just put this in here, change the order, suddenly British. And let's drag this back onto the feedback, and change the transform to 0.01. And now if I press the key, you can see it's being shown there. Let's also change the filter size here to 15. Actually, let's add another blur here. And let's also make the release time shorter. And let's also what's happening here? Okay, let's change the scale here back to on off. There we go, because otherwise it's like triggers me. Yeah, so we don't actually need this blur. Okay, there we go. We can go to the level, to the post, and change the opacity just very slightly to like 0.98 or something, and then it just gets less when it gets higher, when it goes higher, when it gets higher. Yeah, so I'm still really unhappy about these colors. Maybe these are better. Yeah, these are definitely better. Cool. Last but not least, we can add a level here to be a bit more in control of our of the strength of the colors. Something like this. No, that wasn't actually the last, of course. One thing I want to show you is how to make this so they're like not just straight, but also, you know, a bit wobbly, as I showed in the beginning. So let's add a displace top here. Change the displace weight to 0.1 on both of these, and let's add a noise. Put that in there. Go to our render, common, right click on our resolution, copy the parameter, go here, common, and right click and pass the reference. Now let's go here and change the pixel format to 32-bit float, and you can already see now the wobbliness is real. Yeah. So what we can do is go here on our noise and also like type in seconds times 0.1. So now it's changing, and we can also go down with the harmonics a bit and maybe with the amplitude. So we just have a slight wobbling going on. So this makes it a lot more organic instead of, you know, just having straight lines. Beautiful. Cool. So that is it for this tutorial. It was a bit of a longer one, but you know, there's really great possibilities that you have with this. There are great possibilities. Yeah, try to take some time to understand these. And in the next tutorial, we're gonna go a bit deeper into how we can use them to drive animation. And yeah, you can also use different inputs here, of course, because we're just instancing like spheres or something. And yeah, so because we're working tops here, as I just showed very briefly here, we can manipulate these nicely. So one thing we're going to look at also in the next tutorial is how to use slope and stuff, some more displacement to make this look really nice and organic. Alright, so thanks so much for watching. One thing, you can also go here to the operator snippets and check out the event there. So that's how I learned it. Alright, so now thanks a lot for watching. A huge thank you to all the people that are supporting me on Patreon. If you want to have the project file of this and some more content and I don't know, just have too much money, you can go to my Patreon and support me. And yeah, thank you so much, and I see you on part 2.